Shanti, brothers and sisters. Welcome to today's BK Chit Chat. Thank you to those of you who have been able to join us live, and also warm greetings to those of you joining us later on through the video and the audio. This morning, Baba took up the topic of churning power, so Ranjanben and I thought it would be good to consolidate that. You'll recall that Baba's analogy was the cow chewing the grass and creating milk. So it really changes our relationship with the Murli, doesn't it? Because what Baba is saying to us is that the Murli is really the basic ingredient for you. But you have to make it into milk. You have to make it into nourishment. And this is where your effort comes in. Now the effort is subtle. You'll remember the Murli from 2 days ago was for those BKs who are struggling with understanding the Murli. And Baba's comment was, don't give up, keep going. Don't just listen to the Murli twice and then let it go. But actually, bit by bit, your understanding can grow. And so think about it in that way, as a process of understanding. But then you have the Brahmins who do understand the Murli. And there are Brahmins also who have mastery over the Murlis. They've been hearing them for a long time, and they know them very well, and they also teach others. And what can happen over time is our understanding and engagement with the Murli becomes more passive. Because we know, we understand, we've heard these Murlis. And so then hearing the Murli can be just for others. I'll hear this point and then I'll explain it to others. But that's not really what the Murli is for. The Murli is really for myself. And you might remember that we had these 2 Sunday Murlis recently on the sincere heart, the authentic heart, Sache Dil. And Baba was drawing an interesting contrast in that Murli between those who have the Vishal Buddhi, the broad intellect, and those who have that sincere heart. And what Baba was saying was that those who have the sincere heart, they might not understand the points of the Murli in the same way, but what they're trying to do is they're trying to implement them and change themselves. And they're using the Murli to change themselves. Not just that they have a clever head, they've understood the points, and then they can explain to others. But they're understanding that this Murli is for me. And really, I'm going to benefit everyone else if I'm embodying the Murli. Lady Janki used to bring up a really great point when she was thinking about Daddy Gulzar's qualities. And Daddy Gulzar became Baba's chariot after Brahma Baba became an angel. And one of the things that Daddy Janki used to say initially was that everyone used to think of Baba when they see Daddy Gulzar. And she never used to like it that when people saw her, they saw Daddy Janki. And so she used to say to Baba that, Baba, when souls see me, they should also see you. And one of the qualities that she mentioned about Daddy Gulzar was that not only is Daddy Gulzar a good instrument for Baba, so that Baba can come through and we can experience Baba through her, but she said, Daddy Gulzar embodies the points that we are listening to. And so, because she embodies the points that we are listening to, the impact of those points is greater on us. And I thought that was a great point. So when you look at Brahma Baba, if he wasn't doing what Shiv Baba was teaching, then Shiv Baba's teachings have less power, because the medium through which we're hearing has to be that embodiment. If we feel even an energy of hypocrisy, of some sort of difference, it's not the same. And she was then pointing this out, that then it goes on, when you think of the Avyakt Murlis and the points raised in those Murlis, and then you think of Daddy goes on, you think that's really true. She really embodies those Murli points. And the irony is, she was the one person who didn't hear the Murli, because she was in the Sattva region. We all heard the Murli directly. She reads it afterwards. When she came back down from the Sattva region, the first thing that she used to ask for was a copy of the Murli. So Brother Raju does simultaneous typing in Hindi when the Murli is going. So the first copy was always Daddy Gulzar's copy. So this is her attention on the study. And she would then inculcate that before all of us. So I thought that was a great point by Daddy Janki, that Daddy Gulzar had that sincere heart. And because she embodies the Murli, the impact is greater. So when we are understanding this topic of churning, there is that churning for teaching purposes. But when Baba talks of this churning through the day, sometimes he uses the metaphor of spices. And maybe some of you do Indian cooking, or it might also be the case in other cuisines. But quite often in Indian cooking, they don't use ready ground spices, but they grind them at home. You want to say something? So they grind them at home. So you'll quite often see in Indian homes some sort of a mortar and pestle or other such grinding device. And what Baba says is that people often prefer to buy the whole spice. And then just before they want to use it, they'll grind it. Because if you've ground the powder a long time in advance, it's already losing some of its potency. And therefore, some people, they prefer this. They just grind and then put it straight into the pot. So Baba says that you will develop your intoxication when you grind your own ingredients. So that's another example that Baba gives for churning. So whether it's the cow that's producing the milk, and then Baba says from that milk, you can produce butter. And butter is a very powerful image for Hindus because it's connected with Krishna. And Krishna's love for butter. So Baba says that this is really what your churning is for. Your churning is to turn the whole spices of the Murli points and make them your own. And so it's an introspective activity. Now it's true that when we're teaching others, we do learn as well. So we do hear this, it was in this week's Murlis again, that teach others so that your understanding grows. But all the time, it's that introspective intellect. And we do have to be cautious that we don't just see the Murli as something that we now have to teach others. So I'm going to hand over to Ranjanben now to read to us this Murli of the 10th of January 1988 on the theme of churning power.
Om Shanti, good morning to all. This is the Avyakt Bap Dada, 10th January 1988. And the topic is the method of churning and the methods to increase churning power. Today, the jewel merchant father has come to meet his invaluable jewels to see how many jewels of knowledge every elevated soul has accumulated. That is, how many jewels of knowledge you have imbibed in your practical life. Each and every jewel of knowledge is more valuable than multi-millions. So just think how many jewels of knowledge you have received from the beginning until now. The jewel merchant father has filled the apron of the intellect of every child with many jewels. He has given all the children equal jewels of knowledge at the same time. However, the more you use these jewels of knowledge for yourself and for others, the more these jewels continue to increase. Bap Dada was saying that although the father has given equally to all the children, some children have increased their jewels, whereas others have not. Some are full, overflowing, some are full, overflowing, some have unlimited treasures, some are using them according to the time, some are using them for a task and are increasing them multi-million fold. Some are unable to use these jewels for the task as much as they should. This is why they are unable to understand the value of the jewels as much as they should. Your intellect has imbibed what you have received, but you are unable to experience the attainment of happiness, joy, power, peace, and a stage free from obstacles that you should have by using them. The reason for this is lack of churning power, because to churn means to put into your life, to imbibe it. Not to churn means just to imbibe in your intellect. The former use these for every task and in every action of their life, whether it is for the self or for others. The latter simply remember these with their intellect, that is, they imbibe them in their intellect. For instance, when you keep a physical treasure locked up in your safe and you don't use it at the right time or all the time, you don't have the experience of happiness, but you just have the reassurance in your heart that you have that treasure. Neither will it increase, nor will you have an experience. In the same way, if you have just imbibed the jewels of knowledge in your intellect, if you just remember them and repeat them in words, saying that the point is very good, then for a short time you have good intoxication of that good point. However, you have to put these jewels of knowledge into your practical life and into every action, because knowledge is not only jewels, but knowledge is enlightenment, and knowledge is also power. Therefore, if you don't use them in action with this method, neither do they increase, nor is there any experience. Knowledge is a study, and it is also an elevated weapon for battling. This is the value of knowledge. To know their value means to use them for a task, and the more you use them for a task, the more you continue to experience power. For instance, when you don't use a weapon according to the time, then that weapon becomes useless. That is, it no longer has that much value. Knowledge is also a weapon, but if at the time of becoming a conqueror of Maya, you don't use the weapon, then you reduce its value because you didn't take its benefit. To take the benefit of something means to keep its value. You all have jewels of knowledge because you all have a right, but you are number-wise in being full. You were told that the main reason is a lack of the power of churning. Churning power is the basis to experience the Father's treasures to be your own. Just as physical food, when digested, becomes blood, because food is separate, but when you digest it, it then takes the form of blood. In the same way, with churning power, you experience the Father's treasures to be your own. You experience them as a right and as your treasure. Previously too, Bap Dada has been saying that only when you grind your own ingredients will you feel that intoxication. That is by using the Father's treasures with your churning power, experience attainment, and your intoxication will rise. At the time of listening to Baba, you have intoxication, but why does it not remain all the time? The reason is that you have not made them your own with churning power. Churning power means to go to the bottom of the ocean, to be introverted and go into the depth of every jewel of knowledge. You mustn't just repeat them, but what is the significance of every point? And at what time and with what method must I use every point? And with what method must I use every point for the service of others? So listen to every point and think about these 4 things.
Could you repeat the 4?
So Baba said, you must not just repeat them, but what is the significance of every point, and at what time and with what method must I use every point, and with what method must I use every point for the service of others. So first was the self and then for others. So listen.
So significance, time, method for the self, and method of service for others. Yes. Would you like to just read it once more? So these are what is the significance of every point? When must I use this point? What's the method to use it for myself? And what's the method to use it for the service of others?
So Baba, I'll just read a bit further. The Baba said that, it was about grinding your own ingredients, Will you feel that intoxication? That is by using the Father's treasures with your churning power, experience attainment, and your intoxication will rise. At the time of listening to Baba, you have intoxication. But why does it not remain all the time? The reason is that you have not made them your own with churning power. Churning power means to go to the bottom of the ocean, to be introverted and go into the depth of every jewel of knowledge. You mustn't just repeat them, but what is the significance of every point, and at what time and with what method must I use every point, and with what method must I use every point for the service of others?
So 4 points. What's the significance of every point? At what time should I use this point? What is the method that I should use for myself, this point? And what's the method?
For
For
service.
service of others. So this is what we need to ask ourselves with introspection.
So listen to every point and think about these 4 things. Together with churning, also go into the sweetness of that secret. Become lost in the experience of intoxication. Use these at the time of the different obstacles from Maya, or when you have different problems of nature, according to the situations or according to the obstacles. Whatever points I churn, will these jewels of knowledge make me, or can they make me a conqueror of Maya? Did that happen practically? That is, did you become a conqueror of Maya? Or is it that you thought that you would become a conqueror of Maya, but instead you had to labor, or your time was wasted? This is checking. This proves that the method was not accurate, and this is why you didn't experience success. You also need the method and practice to use these things. Just as scientists bring very powerful bombs, they believe that with those they will definitely be victorious. However, if the person using those bombs doesn't know how to use them, then even though they are powerful bombs, when they just fall here or there, then they are wasted. What was the reason? The method to use them was not accurate. In this way, every jewel of knowledge is extremely valuable. Situations and obstacles cannot remain when you have the jewels of knowledge and the power of knowledge. However, if you don't have victory, then understand that you don't know the method to use them accurately. Secondly, by not constantly having the practice of churning at the time of need, when you suddenly try to use them, then you are deceived. You then have the carelessness that you have the knowledge in your intellect anyway, and that you will use it at the right time. Baba says, however, you need constant practice and practice over a long period of time. Otherwise, what title will those who just think about these things receive? I think we had this Murli a few months ago. Do you remember what title Baba gave? So Baba says, otherwise, what title will those who just think about these things receive? A Kumbh Karna. It's a sleeping giant. It's translated as sleeping giant.
Well, I was just thinking about this as well as I was listening, that the main point I'm taking away so far is the timeliness, because most of the other points I do when it comes to the morally, but through the day you can go to sleep, and all it takes is 1 minute of becoming unconscious from soul consciousness, from Baba's awareness. And that's the moment that Maya will attack. That's the moment we will fail. And this is what Baba is saying to us, that if we are awake the whole day, we are conscious of the morally, conscious of ourselves, conscious of Baba, conscious of the time, then those morally points will be naturally accessible, and we will use the right points. We've got to use the right point at the right time. Otherwise, we will experience failures. And like I was saying, we get this title of Kumbhakarna, the Ravan's brother who used to sleep most of the
6 months.
6 months.
6 months he will wake up and eat.
Yeah, well, I don't know if it was even 6 months eating, or it was like just a few days eating. It was like sleeping and sleeping and sleeping and eating. And this is, it can be like that, can't it? That we hear the Murli in the morning, and then the whole day, we're so busy in our activities and in our relations and connections that we've just gone to sleep. And then in the evening, we remember the morning. So this is what Baba is asking us to guard against.
But in Ramayana, he's a character in Ramayana, the scripture. And he's the youngest brother of Ravan. And when he used to sleep for 6 months and then wake up, and they make it very interesting and entertaining in those scriptures. So there are some nice pictures of that, but I don't know if you can find something.
Well, generally Baba talks of service and Kumbhakarna, like the Hindus of India, he calls them Kumbhakarna, but this is why this is not a nice title. That's why Ranjanben was asking you. That this is probably the first time that Baba's using that title for us Brahmins. But it is appropriate because in the day as well, I catch myself and I become unconscious to the morally, to the practices that I was setting myself. And this is what Baba is saying, that if you fall asleep in your intellect, it will be at that moment that actually you will fail in something. So this is why knowledge has to be, you have to use it continuously over a long period of time, and then it becomes yours.
Yeah, this is to do with us. Usually Baba says us foreigners will awaken the Kumbhakarnas of Bharat, India, because they are so engrossed in materialism and, so they don't really listen to sisters there. Well, some do, but when they see the foreigners do, they will one day wake up. And so Baba used for them as well. But today in this Murli, it's about, Baba is pointing out to us, cautioning us how much attention we need to pay and keep churning so that we don't become slack. So Baba is saying the title a Kumbh Karna, Kumbha Karna, means a sleeping giant. What carelessness did he have? He only thought, let them come and then I will be victorious. So the carelessness to think that it will happen when it is time deceives you. Therefore, continue to increase churning power every day. Whether it is the revised course or the Avyakt Murli that you hear every day, in order to increase churning power, imbibe one special point in your intellect every day and practice with the method of 4 things that Baba told you about. While moving along, while performing every action, whether it is for yourself or an action for service, let churning take place throughout the day. Whether you are in business or you go to the office, or whether you serve at a center, whenever your intellect is a little free, repeatedly increase the practice of churning. Some work is such that while you are doing that work, you can also think about these things at the same time. It is for a very little time that you have to do work in which your intellect has to pay full attention. So Baba used to say, like Ramesh Pai of Bombay, he was accountant and lawyer. So his intellect would be engaged in other things. But there are other brothers who are doing other jobs, like, so they have, their intellect is free. They don't need to use their intellect in accounts or things like that. And this is why Baba said they have time to churn, whereas some, but it's for very little. Baba says, so like Baba says, that your intellect has to pay full attention. Otherwise, your intellect can continue to work on both things. If you fix such time in your timetable, you can find a lot of time in between. It isn't that you have to find special time to use churning power. You can do it even while walking and moving around. If you have some time in solitude, that is very good. Go into the depth of the clarification of every point. Go into its expansion, and you will enjoy yourself very much. But first of all, stabilize yourself in the intoxication of that point. Then you won't get bored. Otherwise, you just repeat the points and you then say, this is now done. What should I do? Should I now do? When spinning the discus of self-realization, some of you make me laugh. So Baba says some children make Baba laugh when they're spinning the discus of self-realization. What should we think about? Our cycle finishes within 5 minutes. They don't know how to experience that stage, and so they simply repeat the knowledge. The golden, silver, copper, and iron ages. So many births, this much lifespan, this much time, their soul, and it is completed. However, to become a spinner of the discourse of self-realization means to experience a knowledgeful and powerful stage. Now practice with every point to remain stable in the intoxication of that point and to become a knower of the significance of that point of knowledge. This was one aspect of the discourse of self-realization that the Father spoke. In the same way, churn each and every point of knowledge and every now and then practice having an experience. It should not be that you just sit there for half an hour simply churning it. Whenever you have time, let the intellect have the practice of churning. With churning power, your intellect will remain busy and you will automatically and easily become a conqueror of Maya. When Maya sees that you are busy, she automatically steps away. If Maya comes and you then have to battle to chase her away, and sometimes there is victory and sometimes there is defeat. That is effort of crawling stage. Now is the time to make intense effort. It is the time to fly. Therefore, keep your intellect busy, churning. Through this churning power, you will remain absorbed in the power of remembrance. You will easily have that experience. Churning makes you a conqueror of Maya and free from all waste thoughts. Where there is no waste and no obstacles, you automatically have a powerful stage, the stage of remaining lost in love. Some think that they have very little of the seed stage or the stage of powerful remembrance, or that they have an experience after paying a lot of attention. You were told the reason for this last time too, that there is some leakage. The power of your intellect goes to waste. Sometimes you will have waste thoughts and at other times you will have ordinary thoughts. To keep your intellect busy with the work that you are doing is known as having ordinary thoughts. So I repeat, Baba says, Baba has pointed out and I just realized, to keep your intellect busy with the work, that is, you become action conscious, that you are doing is known as having ordinary thoughts. At that time, you don't have the power of remembrance or the churning power that you should have. And you satisfy yourself by saying, today I did not commit any sins. I have not had any wastage, and I did not give anyone any sorrow. However, did you have powerful thoughts, a powerful stage, and powerful remembrance? Bap Dada is asking, did you have powerful thoughts or powerful stage and powerful remembrance? If you did not have these, that is called ordinary thoughts. You performed actions, but karma and yoga were not together. So it's not karma yogi. So Baba said it wasn't together. You became one who performs actions, but not one who is a karma yogi. Therefore, while performing actions, there should always be the experience of either churning power or the power of being lost in that stage. Both these powers are the basis of doing powerful service. Because those who churn have that practice, they are able to create whatever stage they want, whenever they want. By having a link, the leakage will end, and whatever experience you want, whether it is the seed stage or the angelic stage, you will easily be able to experience whatever stage you want. When you have awareness of knowledge, then by remembering knowledge, you automatically remember the bestower of that knowledge. So, do you understand how you have to churn? You were told that Baba would tell you about churning at some point. So, today, Baba has told you the method to churn. The basis of always being victorious over obstacles of Maya and always experiencing success in service is churning power. Do you understand? Acha, to all the knowledgeable children of the ocean of knowledge, to the elevated souls who always easily become conquerors of Maya with the power to churn, to those who increase their practice of churning power and who experience the stage of being lost in love, to those who always know the value of the jewels of knowledge, to those who use the power of knowledge in every action, to the special, invaluable jewels who always remain stable in an elevated stage. Bap Dada's love, remembrance, and namaste.
We'll stop there. So, Ranjanben, would you like to share some thoughts on this morning?
Well, this morning I was listening to the Murli in Hindi in ORCs in retreat center in Delhi, near Delhi, and the sister Asha was sharing that today's Murli, like it was that the health, more you churn, more you chew the grass, that is Murli, more you become healthy. And she was saying that Mama used to listen to the Murli early in the morning. She would listen and then she would churn from 2:30 onwards for an hour or 2 hours. And then Daddy all around, there's some Gulzar Dadi's Lokik mother, because she did once Baba asked who is going to run errands with errands, to do all sorts of work, all sorts of service. And she was the first one and only one who volunteered that Baba, I'll do whatever you tell me, because some just chose what they would like to do, but they didn't want to do everything. And so Baba gave her the name All Round Daddy. So others, I think her name was Rocha, wasn't it? Rocha, I think so. Mama's No, that was Mama's, but anyhow, so that was Dadi Gulzar's Lokik mother, all round Dadi. And so Baba, and so all round Dadi was sharing that Mama, when after that she would come out, and then when she appeared from her room, her face was so healthy, so like a sun giving rays and red and very healthy and beautiful. And so that is the turning power and remaining introverted. And we see Mama's who had a cancer, she was very ill, even in hospital when we see her photos. But some of them, I love them. They're so beautiful, so elegant, and you can see, you can feel it even from her photos, even though I haven't met her, but from her photos. And so, and also the other daddies, she gave a few names. First, Daddy Manohar, Daddy Gangi, and whenever they had to give to go on service in the evening to lecture hall, those daddies, like Baba said today, go introvert, be introvert. They did it practically. So daddies will finish Murlis and chores and things, and then they would stay in their room and they go into deep silence and learn how to do service, what to say in the lectures. And so that's why, people love their lectures and so many came. So I thought that was really beautiful that Baba keeps on saying that when you go into silence and introvertness, we have success. And and then, of course, exercise of remembering Baba and doing drills and karma yoga, having Baba with us will help. And that's the what you call health of a soul, to make the soul strong and make it healthy and become viceless. And practice over a long period of time will help. Like today Baba said, give the gift to Brahma Baba by wherever, whether you're walking, doing something, become an angel. Practice that. So I've been keeping that in mind today and practicing from the morning. That Brahma Baba has done so much, given us so much. What gift can I give? But at least and it is for myself, because Baba is selfless. Baba doesn't want anything. He just wants us to become complete and be ready and, go home without experiencing punishment and achieve high status. So it is for my own benefit. Baba doesn't want anything else. Om Shanti.
We had such a clear morally on churning. It's worth remembering this one, isn't it? 10th of January 1988, whenever we want to revisit this topic. The two main points that I think also Ranjanben read it with such power. I think all of you must have also felt as if Daddy Janki was reading the Murli herself. And the messages of the Murli came through so powerfully because of that. I think the two main takeaway points for me are this one of constantly staying awake through the day. And secondly, that am I using the right point of knowledge at the right time? Because only then will I have success. And the title in today's blessing was of the Holy Swan Intellect. And this is really that holy swan, that can I use that knowledge at the right point? Because I can have a very good point, but actually is the right point for that right time, with that right soul, in that right situation? Or am I using another morally point, which actually I shouldn't be using at this moment? And I think that's that clarity that we've got to develop, and that discernment we have to develop. So let me hand over to brothers and sisters who are with us now, if you would like to share anything or ask anything. Feel welcome to unmute yourself.
Om Shanti.
Shanti.
I think in my very, very early days of Brahmin life, in hearing Baba's Murli and whatever the instrument was saying, did not always resonate fully with me. I think the point, and I think it because of self-respect, but my being a deity, I put that aside. And immediately, Baba being point was what I resonated so fully with me, and I being soul. But the churning, and probably I didn't know it was churning at the time. I would go inside and I would ask Baba, you know, what are they saying? Is this true? Clarify this for me. And it was my constant conversation with Baba, with the points of knowledge that started clarifying stuff for me. And because of that, it's not that I did not need instrument or anyone. I didn't rely fully on the instrument. Yes, it was important to take what they said, but I realized this knowledge was between me and God. And I would go through in my mind, go through all the time in my mind. And today Baba is saying, and I have felt because of that, Baba's knowledge, awareness of Baba, awareness of self, having gotten this knowledge, using them in that way, has protected me in my entire Brahmin life thus far. And any time, because there are times where it wanes and I move away to a point where I forget. And as you said, the awareness is not there during the day. You're caught up in other stuff. There are things that happen that you rather did not happen. And you make your errors, but you catch yourself, sometimes sooner than later. But churning knowledge, the point of, this discuss of self-realization, going through this churning of the cycle. And really it comes back down what I'm doing now with the Baba's churning of the points of knowledge, yes, and all the forms, the drill. It really, really, yes, keeps you healthy, but it gives you power. And Maya, because when keeping the intellect occupied, then really Maya is unable to come and break that link. It's a gate to come through once it is not full. So for me, churning has always been, but it has always been, sometimes we had group churning in the center, but it came back down for me personally. It's talking to Baba, churning, asking Baba, what is this? Show me what this means. And the realization comes. Sometimes it may not be really what others think, because they know, I know that my interpretation of knowledge, some Brahmins don't see it that way. But what I have done is that I am comfortable with it at this point, and that allows me to move forward. I will not stop and say, okay, it doesn't make sense, until something else may come up and maybe clarify what I'm thinking and maybe put more meaning to it. But for me, it is between me and God, between me and Baba. Shanti.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. As you were speaking, I was thinking how Baba was saying that knowledge is a power, knowledge is a weapon, but also what you're saying, knowledge is a shield. Baba didn't mention that in today's Murli that we just heard, but he does in other Murlis. And so, as you're saying, knowledge is many, many things, and we have to use them in many, many ways. Sometimes it's knowledge is our protection. Sometimes knowledge has to be used more assertively. Sometimes knowledge is more introspective. Sometimes knowledge has to be used for others. So as you're saying, you have to make knowledge your own, and also that our realization also grows over time. We allow ourselves that. Thanks for sharing.
Shanti, brother.
Sure.
Yes, this morning was very significant for me because I was having a hard time at some point at the churning and wondering why I can't remember certain parts, like at the right time. And so when Didi was reading, I couldn't help but thinking how powerful, as you said, that when it was coming across as though Baba himself was sending that power, giving me that power to understand how I need to churn. Because as a baby coming into GAN, your level of churning will be different from when you're more mature. And that one point that stood up was knowing the significance of the point and putting it into action, knowing when to use it for myself and others, but knowing the significance of the point that hit it home for me. Thank you.
I think that's the exciting bit, isn't it? And for me, when I hear the morally or any morally at any point, it is this. And Baba's given me this opportunity to speak to all of you through the daily classes. And it's a great opportunity for me to share the significance. And because I have the opportunity to share, it's even better for me because I'm hearing it for myself. But it's like, well, did you, brothers and sisters, did you see this? Did you notice this point? And it really excites me when you look at the significance of this. And I think linked with what you're saying was that very powerful line that Baba spoke about checking our wastage. So what Baba was saying was that why you're not experiencing the way you should be experiencing, or you're not using something at the right time and you're experiencing some failure, is because your energy of your intellect is being used in ordinariness or in wastage. And there are many Murlis on this, of course, but this is a really important checking for us all to do, that where is it that we are using energy unnecessarily? In last Sunday's Murli, Baba said that you use it in small things and in ordinary things. These are the two ways in which you're using your energy. So then what happens is at that right time, we are unconscious. It's like ordinariness and wastefulness makes our intellect unconscious. So then a situation comes where really we need to be conscious and we're trying to click ourselves back into consciousness. But actually we've been unconscious for a while. And when we're unconscious, our default patterns will automatically take over. So the old sanskars, they just will be used because we're unconscious. And this is why Baba is saying you've got to each day develop your churning. You've got to increase this over time. And then you're conscious for longer. The old sanskars, like Baba says to us in Murlis, that your intellect, it's gone to sleep. In some Murlis, he evokes the imagery of the Quran, that he says that your intellect has become buried in the graveyard. Gabradakil is the word he uses in the Murli. And so literally in the Iron Age, souls, intellects they're not really awake at all. And you meet some people where maybe they're a bit newer souled, or they've got a bit of enlightenment in their intellect. There's a bit more rego in their intellect. And you can feel the difference between them and souls generally who are just asleep. And when we're asleep, the old sanskars just work, and the old impulses of the sense organs, they just work. So then what happens is after the event, we become conscious. So then we regret. And we say, oh, I wish I hadn't. Oh, I should have dealt with this. So then we're in this process of yoga and connection with Baba, which is self-reflective, but it's reflecting on what I shouldn't have done. And the message from the Murli we've just heard is, as you said, as you're becoming more mature, your churning must change. It shouldn't be that you're just, well, I made these mistakes today, but no, I didn't really cause anyone any sorrow. That level of checking is not good enough as we are more mature in knowledge. As we are more mature in knowledge, Baba is saying there shouldn't be a moment of failure because you've got all the equipment. And if you're failing, it means that you're just not using that equipment at the right time. And so he gave us this title of Kumbhkarna because there's this carelessness. And he's asked us to check something within us related to that, which is linked with procrastination. So subtly, as Brahmins, we can use hope and misuse it. So we can, Baba, I will get there. Baba, I've got faith in myself. Baba will help me, I will get there. So Baba is saying you've got this thought that it will happen at some point. And on one side, that's a good thought because it's a thought of hope and courage and faith. But on the other side, we can misuse that same thought to actually procrastinate. And what we need to do as we become more mature as Brahmins is think that, no, actually, I've got to do it right now, today. Only today matters. Only this hour, this next hour is all that matters. My mind must maximize the next hour. And I think and as I was listening to the Murli, I was also thinking of Sister Jayanti, that I would say out of all of the qualities that we can learn from Sister Jayanti, I would say this is the number one, that her attention not to waste time is like legendary. She's very ruthless with this. And that ruthlessness has really helped her. She doesn't want to spend time with anything that's not necessary. And she will be very disciplined with her own self and also disciplined in her interactions. And I think this is something we can all take from you. Thank you for sharing. Would anyone else like to come in? No, I think everything is clear. So it's such a clear Murli. This morning's Murli was also clear. So today, let's really make the most of today, each day at a time, each hour at a time, and just train our mind that I have to really experience what I've heard and let me experience it for myself, and then let me also enjoy it. This is what the godly student role is about. And then this coming hour, let me spend it with Baba, let me spend it with Baba's knowledge, and really grind my own ingredients. Baba wants us to make the Murli our own. Now, yes, we got to be open to different interpretations and maybe our understanding. That's true. But at the same time, we also have to personalize the Murli. It can't remain as someone else's point. It must be my point, because this is my inheritance from Baba. So have that confidence and courage as well, to be able to make it your own. And maybe you can see something that another person hasn't seen. And so you can do that. In terms of generally churning the Murli, maybe you might like to use Baba's framework this week when you're taking your notes. So Baba's first question was, what's the significance of this point? The second question was, when should I use this point? The third question was, what method or how should I use that for myself? And the fourth question was, how should I use it to serve others? So you could use that framework of 4 questions to take your notes this week as you hear the Murlis, and see whether that helps you. I will definitely do that in terms of just in my own mind. I think I generally have that sort of framework, but I'm particularly going to focus on the when point this week. And you might like that, because brothers and sisters sometimes ask me this question of how should we churn? This could be a way of doing it, a framework. And then next Saturday, if you do that, let me know how that goes, and I'll be interested to see if it's a good method and you find it useful. So lovely. Thank you to those of you that were able to join us live. We always enjoy meeting you. And also warm greetings. We know that most of you tune in later on through the video and audio. So have a great week to all of you. So, Shanti, everyone.
Om Shanti.
Shanti, bye-bye.
Have a good day.
Shanti. Shanti.